Okay, so we have now reached a point where we are officially done with Fatal Attractions, but now we're going to work our way up to the next crossover when it comes to the X-Men, and that'll be the Phalanx Covenant. Now, for that story arc, we do have a lot of different stories that do take place that lead into that next crossover for the X-Men. But first, we had to sit down and cover X-Men Annual Issue number 2. And the reason why, because we're still continuing the whole idea of the legacy virus being out there in the world of Marvel Comics at this time. Now remember, the legacy virus is this virus where basically it was made by Strife to kill off the mutant race. And we're seeing more and more mutants getting hit by the virus left and right. Mutants are dying across the board. But the storyline is kind of like what would happen if one of the own X-Men gets the virus as well. And so getting into today's video, we do pick up with two characters. Now would be Avalanche and Crimson Commando. Really, by this point in the 1990s, he was no longer calling himself Crimson Commando. He was now just being called Commando, and that was it. Now, these are two characters we have not seen in a good while when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men. So here's a quick refresher. You see, these two characters were part of a team called Freedom Force. Now, real quickly, you see, in Marvel Comics, you had different versions of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. The first version was created by Magneto. The second version was being led by Mystique. In the 90s, the third version was, well, being led by Toad. Now, when it came to Mystique's team, after a while, you had the entire team go work for the government. But over time, you had different members of the team just leave for different reasons. By this point right now, it's just two characters, Commando and Avalanche, and that's really it. But getting back into the story, we see right now the two characters arriving to Big Pine Keys. Now, Big Pine Keys are small islands off the coast of Florida, but we see our two characters arriving at a fortress that belongs to a character called Jonathan Chambers. Now, he'll become very important for the later parts of this video, but once you have the two characters being able to get inside his home, well, they are confronted by the newest version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, being led by Toad. Now, most of the members of this team, they have bad blood against Commando and also Avalanche, because the last mission they were on together as Freedom Force did not go as well as they had planned it. And so right now, you have the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants wanting to fight against Avalanche and also Commando, but they are then stopped by Jonathan Chambers, who says, listen, if they're your friends, sooner or later, they'll be my friends as well. They came here for a good reason, and honestly, I want to hear them out, but show them what we are trying to achieve here. But now we can jump back over to the school of Charles Xavier. Now, like I said at the very beginning of this video, you have our heroes right now trying to figure out how to stop the legacy virus from spreading and killing off more mutants, but also trying their best to find a cure for the legacy virus. Now, for Charles Xavier, Beast, and Morbid Tagger, they had created a device that kind of tells them when somebody had died from the legacy virus. Now, something else we have to remember is that in the earlier parts of our coverage over the X-Men, after the Executioner's song, when it came to Charles Xavier and also Morbid Tagger, they were not telling anybody about the legacy virus or the fact that they were trying to find a way to cure the virus. But then sooner or later, the rest of the X-Men found out because Ileana, the younger sister of Colossus, had died by the legacy virus. When it came to Beast, he was very upset about the fact that Charles Xavier did not even ask him to help out, because Beast is a scientist, and most likely, if he had worked alongside with Morbid Tagger and Charles Xavier, they could have possibly found a cure for the virus a long time ago. But either way, you didn't have Charles' device say, another mutant has died by the hands of the legacy virus. Now, you also have the book reminding us of the lovely stuff that was going on in the 1990s when it came to the character known as Psylocke. Let me explain. You see, in the 1980s, you had Marvel give us a new character in X-Men comics, and that was Betsy Braddock. Now, she had appeared long before in X-Men comics, but around that time in the 80s, she was new to the book. Now, when it came to Betsy Braddock, she had joined the X-Men shortly after the Mutant Massacre. But here's the catch. She was a British woman. Now, when it came to acts of vengeance, you had our heroes use the Siege Perilous as a way to escape from the Reavers who were chasing down the X-Men. And she had disappeared, but when she had reappeared, she came back as a Japanese woman. Now, we had learned that technically it was the Hand who had a hand in the reason why Betsy Braddock was now in the body of a Japanese woman. But then over the next few years in Marvel Comics, it was kind of like, okay, no matter what, she's now in the body of a Japanese woman. But then out of nowhere, you had Marvel bring back the original version of Betsy Braddock, the British version. And this is where things got a tad bit complicated. You see, you had Marvel tell us that there were two ladies, Kawanin and Betsy Braddock. And what happened was, thanks to the Hand and other people, you had both the minds of both of the ladies go into both of the bodies of Betsy Braddock, the British woman and the Japanese woman. And so in each body, you have half the mind of each of the ladies. And so technically, you have both Betsy Braddock and Kawanin in the body of the Japanese woman, and the same thing for the British woman. And so it's so weird, but at the same time, you have both ladies trying to figure out who is Betsy and who is Kawanin. Now, I want to jump back over to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And the reason why, because we do see Pyro and Avalanche having that conversation with one another, a heart to heart. Now, we're getting reminded that these two characters were actually close when they were part of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but also Freedom Force as well. But we kind of learned the idea that there's something going on with Pyro. And the reason why I'm saying that because as we go back inside the fortress that belongs to Jonathan Chambers, we do learn from Toad that Pyro needs some kind of help. Not physically, but emotionally. Now, with that being said, we also see the different members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants get upset with Commando. Now, this leads into us learning about the powers of Jonathan Chambers. You see, for Jonathan Chambers, he has the ability to absorb other people's emotions and take that energy and being able to shoot it as a blast of energy towards his targets. Now, for Jonathan, he's telling us that he wants to make his home a haven for all mutants across the world who are being attacked by the legacy virus. Now, on the outside home of Jonathan Chambers, we do pick up with Peter Gyrich. Now, we have talked about Gyrich before. You see, he works for the government, but he's also part of Project Wide Awake. Now, when it comes to Project Wide Awake, it's the government trying to get ready just in case anything happens towards the mutant race. With this project, they're able to keep tabs on everything going on with the mutant race, but at the same time, they're also able to build different kinds of weapons they could use against the mutant race just in case of war coming down the road against the mutant race. Now, for Peter Gyrich, we do learn that for Crimson Commando and also Avalanche, the reason why they came here is because they're still working for the government. And so it's right now Peter trying to use those two characters as a way for those two to meet up with their old friends, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, but to also gather intel on what's happening with the Brotherhood, but also with Jonathan Chambers. Because we do learn that Jonathan had kidnapped two doctors who had worked for the government. Two doctors who are well known for working on different kinds of diseases across the entire world. And so now we have to jump back over to the X-Men. Now, when we do, we see the X-Men heading over to the home of Jonathan Chambers. And the reason why, because, well, Charles Xavier have been keeping tabs on Chambers. And the reason why, because Chambers is also kind of like Charles. wanting to bridge that gap between the mutant race and the human race. But here's the catch though. You see, for Chambers, he does talk shows or use books as a way to explain why mutants and humans should get along with one another. Now, for Charles, he also got word that there are two scientists right now at the home of Jonathan Chambers, the same two scientists that Henry Gyrich wants back. But one of those scientists has been working with Charles Xavier behind the scenes. And that one scientist had called Charles to say, hey, listen, for Chambers, he has some new company over. And that new company is the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Now, for the X-Men, they're going to be in two different teams. The first team is going to be Cyclops, Rogue, and Beast. And they were actually welcome inside the home of Jonathan Chambers. But you have Gambit, Kawana, and Psylocke going to sneak around the actual base of Jonathan Chambers to hopefully find a scientist, but to also collect more intel on him. But now we jump over to Peter Gyrich for a brief moment. And the reason why, because you have Peter very upset about the fact that the X-Men were able to sneak their way onto the island of Jonathan Chambers. Now, one of his agents tells them, like, why are you so upset for? Because there is a possibility that the X-Men and the Brotherhood could fight against one another and possibly take each other out. And if that happens, that'll be great for our whole entire organization. Now, we do see that Gambit, Kawanan, and Rogue were able to sneak their way into the home of Jonathan Chambers. Now, real quick, I want to say that for Kawanan and Psylocke, they find Gambit very annoying, especially for Kawanan, because she's only been around for a short period of time. And so for her, she's kind of like, is Gambit always like this, always talking, always flirting? And the answer is yes, he's always like that. But either way, you do have the team sneak their way into the home of Jonathan Chambers. Now, for the X-Men, they want answers. They want to know if Jonathan Chambers is holding on to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants down in the basement of his home. And really, for Jonathan Chambers, he's kind of like, dude, I have nothing to hide. If that is your question, then here's your answer. Yes, I do have the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants right now in the basement of my home. But right after you have Jonathan tell the first team of the X-Men that yes, the Brotherhood is there, you then have the other X-Men team, Gambit, Kawana, and Psylocke, begin a fight against the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Now, you do have the other X-Men team arrive to help out the other team to fight against the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. But while you have both sides going against one another, you didn't have Beast tell the Brotherhood, like, listen, Avalanche and also Commando are not here to fix their friendship with you guys. They still work for the government. They're part of Project Wide Awake. Now for Pyro, he cannot believe that his old best friend Avalanche did not come here to fix their friendship, that technically he's still working for the government. Shortly after that, you then have Chambers use his powers as a way to calm everybody down by basically saying, listen, let me explain what is exactly going on here in my home. And so we do learn very quickly here that the reason why Pyro and the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are there at the home of Chambers is because Pyro has the legacy virus. As we all know, as soon as you get the legacy virus, you are going to die sooner or later. Now, let's not forget, for Chambers, he has the ability to absorb other people's negative emotions. And so what he's doing for Pyro is giving Pyro the ability to not feel the pain of the virus slowly killing him off. But also you have Chambers using Pyro and other people who are affected by the legacy virus as guinea pigs to hopefully find a cure for the actual legacy virus. Now, for Cyclops and the X-Men, most of the X-Men, they kind of believe in the fact that what Chambers is doing is wrong. Like, yes, you are able to ease the pain for other people, but at the same time, you're using them as guinea pigs. Now, for Pyro, he's kind of like, yes, he may be using me, but I'm also using him as a way to stop feeling what I'm feeling right now inside of me. Now, as soon as you have Pyro say those words over to Cyclops, we kind of find out, another big time character also has the legacy virus, and that would be Kawanin. Now, it kind of seems like this was Marvel trying to begin the process of possibly removing Kawanin out of X-Men comics and shifting their focus back onto good old Bessie Braddock once again, who's in the body of a Japanese woman. But when it comes to Kawanin, she tells Cyclops, like, listen, we don't have the right to tell people how they want to die. If Pyro here wants to die the way he wants to die, then we should go ahead and accept his wishes. Even though it could be wrong in our eyes, we still don't have the right to tell him how he should die. And so it's really more Kawanin saying, let's go ahead and leave, because everyone here right now who's basically being guinea pigs for Chambers, they chose this. And we don't have the right to force them to change their minds. It is completely wrong. Now, the book kind of ends on that note. Now, you do have Peter Gyrich kind of make his presence known to Chambers, but for Chambers, kind of like, listen, you can arrest me and you cannot stop me, because what I'm doing here is to help out the mutant race. And every single mutant that comes here, they come here in their own free will. They're trying to find a way to survive, or they want a few moments of not feeling the pain of the virus killing them. And so for Cyclops and the X-Men, they kind of realize that, yeah, what he's doing here is not illegal. And so they also leave as well. But before they do leave, you do have Chambers ask Kawanin to stay here, and she says no. And then you have the X-Men leave. And that ends today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.